Breathe. Just breathe. Last year, I followed the advice of marketing experts, and I had the worst year in my business. I'm going to share with you what I learned, how it changed my life, and how it can change yours. I have been a leadership coach and consultant for over 25 years and decided it was time to take my business to the next level. So I found marketing experts who were the top in their field, and I began following them. I was drawn in by the promise of getting more clients and making more money. These experts had used strategies that made them millionaires. Certainly, it would work for me too. So I jumped in with both feet and I began implementing. I hired someone to boost my social media presence. I had my graphics designer create beautiful images for all of my products. I hired someone to manage my website. I did networking, workshops, presentations. I devoted a lot of time, energy, and effort into all of these strategies for well over a year, expecting a huge return on my investment. Well, you know where this is headed. I did not get the results I was hoping for. The hardest part was looking my husband in the eyes and saying, honey, my business expenses, well, they exceeded my income for the year. I am so sorry. I was so ashamed. I felt like a failure. I had let my family down. I had let my business down. And I had let myself down. So, I did what any hardworking entrepreneur would do. I decided to work harder. I came up with a vigorous schedule of workshops, webinars, group coaching sessions. My calendar was full for the upcoming year. I was on fire, and I was determined to make it work. And then everything changed. On February 6th, our sweet golden retriever, Carly, suddenly collapsed. We scooped her up, we put her in the back of the car, and we drove as fast as we could to the vet's office. And as we were pulling in to the driveway, Carly took her last breath. She was only 10 years old. This is a picture of me holding her when she was just 4 months. Carly's passing made me realize that I was losing myself in my business. Do you get that? Losing myself in my business. And I had taken my focus off of my family. This was a very hard realization for me to come to. But I realized my mistake wasn't that I followed these marketing experts. And my mistake wasn't that I implemented all those strategies. My mistake was that I did not take inspired action. Now, what is inspired action? It's when you get out of your head, you get into your heart, and you act from a place of inner truth or intuition. A beautiful example of this happened during the women's 5,000 meter race in the Summer Olympics. Nikki Hamlin from New Zealand suddenly fell on the track, and then Abby D'Agostino from the US fell on top of her. Abby D'Agostino then physically lifts Hamlin up off the track, and the two of them start to resume the race together, and then D'Agostino falls, realizing that she had hurt her knee, and now Hamlin is extending her hand, and helping D'Agostino up? What made these athletes who trained for years and years to be better than their competition actually stop and help a fellow competitor? They trusted their intuition and took inspired action. Now, this is different than reacting. According to world-renowned speaker and author Dr. Wayne Dyer, reacting comes from a place of fear, whereas inspired action comes from a place of love. When have you ever acted in fear and gotten a positive result? I'm guessing never. Here's a perfect example of how acting in fear can be disastrous. A fairly large organization needed to cut costs, so the executives sat down and they decided, let's get rid of coffee. So they sent an email out to all employees, and the next day, this is a true story, all coffee machines, and related items disappeared from all departments. Well, employee morale reached an all-time low, and their productivity plummeted. These executives were acting in fear, and the action they took was definitely not inspired. These executives made a grave mistake. Acting in fear did not work for them. It will not work for any of you. So you want to take inspired action. But how do you do it? Well, researchers and psychologists, they all agree on one thing. We need to breathe. And guess what? Inspire means to breathe in. I know I could have done more of this. I was so busy taking action that I seldom stopped, allowed myself to breathe, and ask if a strategy resonated with me in my business before I implemented it. I was listening to the wisdom of the experts, and I was not listening to the wisdom of my own intuition. According to author and speaker Malcolm Gladwell, intuition can be more accurate than our conscious, well-thought-out perceptions, so we need to pay attention. Are you paying attention? Do you know what it feels like to be connected to your intuition? I think of it like a Wi-Fi signal. When our Wi-Fi connection is strong, things flow and are pretty effortless. But when our signal is weak, we struggle, things seem hard, and we get frustrated waiting for that page to load. I felt this in my business. When that signal was strong, boy, things moved so easy, quickly. It was great. But when my signal was weak, I felt like I was working offline. And I ignored the warning signs that something wasn't right. Do you ever ignore the warning signs that something just isn't right? Probably more often than you realize. You have so much information coming at you that in an effort to keep up, you react and respond just to get it off your plate. You text, you post, you tweet, you send emails, you have conversations with each other, focusing on what you want and ignoring hunches and insights as to what might be in the best interest of everyone. Imagine what could be if you only took action if it was in complete alignment with your inner truth. The results would be tangible and significant. Your relationships would be genuine, strong, and solid, and you would feel balanced, whole, and complete. And what about our organizations? Moving at a very fast pace, trying to do more with less, wanting to edge out the competition to increase that bottom line. Imagine what could be if our organizations had a strong Wi-Fi connection. We would focus on our gifts, not our titles. We would be centered and grounded before we went into meetings. We would be brave enough to share insights that didn't necessarily make logical sense, but they were in the highest good of everyone. We would embrace vulnerability, and we would let go of shame. According to author and speaker Dr. Brené Brown, vulnerability is our most accurate measure of courage. And what about our world? So full of fear, an us versus them mentality. We use violence to solve our problems, and that just further separates us from each other. Imagine what could be if we had a world with less violence and more love. What would be possible if we had greater appreciation for our differences and action was taken from a deeper place of inspiration? The possibilities would be infinite. So, my friends, how can you, in the hustle and bustle of your everyday activities, remember to take inspired action? Well, I have a story to share with you. When our daughter Juliana was going into kindergarten, she had a hard time remembering everything that she needed to take to school and then everything that she needed to bring home. So to help her remember, we came up with this little song, and it went like this. Stop and think, what do I need to bring? And it really worked for her. So I changed the words to help you remember to take inspired action. And it goes like this. Stop and breathe. Who am I inspired to be? Now, this song includes everything that you've learned today. Stop what's happening in the moment. Put your hands on your heart and remember to come from a place of love and breathe. And then open your hands to receive the inspiration. Stop and breathe. Who am I inspired to be? Now do it with me. Stop and breathe. Who am I inspired to be? Beautiful. And with practice, that will become second nature for you. Just like a muscle, the more you work it, the stronger it will become. It has for me. I am much more clear on who I'm called to be in my business. I feel more in alignment with my purpose, and the inspired action I'm taking is yielding much greater results. My family's a lot happier too. Now, there's one more thing you need to know. You must trust the inspired action that you take from this good feeling, strong connection place of inner truth, regardless of how it looks in the moment. Let's go back to our athletes, Nikki and Abby. They were hoping to finish the race strong and maybe even earn a medal, but the outcome for them was very different. Would they do anything differently? No, they wouldn't, according to an interview done shortly after the incident. Nikki said something so much bigger, stronger, and powerful happened as a result. And Abby, she said it's not the experience either of them thought they were going to have, but now they see the value of relationship, serving, and sacrifice, the bigger messages. When you trust the inspired action you take, regardless of how it looks in the moment, the possibilities truly are infinite. Just remember to stop and breathe and ask, who am I inspired to be? Thank you.